Welcome to the deep dive. Look, whether you're a die-hard footy fan who lives and breathes the Australian rules game, or maybe you're just someone fascinated by elite team building and high-level strategy, you are in for an absolute treat today.
Yeah, for sure.
We are looking at a masterclass in roster construction. Today, our focus is squarely on a newly released, honestly, an incredibly detailed source document titled Hawthorn HAWKS, the 2026 Premiership Blueprint.
There's a phenomenal piece of strategic analysis. We're looking at a team that just last year in 2025 played the role of the ultimate giant killers.
Right.
They put the entire competition on notice with that blistering run deep into a semifinal. But what this text shows us is that they aren't resting on that underdog narrative.
No, not at all.
They haven't just patted themselves on the back for a good effort. They have systematically and honestly, ruthlessly retooled for a genuine Premiership tilt.
Exactly. And the mission of our deep dive today is to break down how Hawthorn has transformed from that scrappy, unpredictable young side into what the authors describe as a perfectly balanced, terrifying 23-man Premiership contender.
Yeah, they've built an absolute machine here.
Taking the raw potential of last season and engineering out basically every single flaw. Okay, let's unpack this.
To really grasp the mechanics of this, you first have to understand the architect. Coach Sam Mitchell has instilled an overarching system built on two non-negotiable pillars: fast transition and defensive density.
Right, defensive density.
Yeah. Now, defensive density isn't just about having big blokes standing around in the back 50. It's a highly coordinated zone structure. It's about how the entire team pushes up the grass to compress the space, forcing the opposition into hurried kicks to a disadvantage.
Creating a literal wall.
Exactly, a wall that traps the ball in Hawthorn's forward half.
And that suffocating pressure is what feeds the fast transition, right? Winning the ball back in dangerous areas and punishing the opposition before they can even set their defensive structures.
Precisely. Look, this is no longer just a group of exciting kids relying on adrenaline and the roar of the crowd. They have matured. They've identified their specific structural gaps. And by addressing them, they've engineered a shift from a plucky, scrappy side into an absolute powerhouse that dictates the terms of a match from the very first center bounce.
Spot on. Let's start exactly where that defensive density is anchored. The document calls it the Great Wall of Hawthorn, the backline.
The foundation.
Yeah, the absolute headline news for this 2026 season is the massive injection of key position talent. We are talking about the arrival of two elite key defenders, Tom Barrass and Josh Weddle. But I'm looking at this and wondering, if you bring in two massive traditional key defenders, don't you risk becoming a bit too slow?
Too top-heavy on the rebound.
Yeah. Because the modern game is just so punishingly fast.
What's fascinating here is why these two specific recruits actually speed the team up rather than slow them down.
Okay, how so?
You see, when you drop big, robust bodies like Barrass and Battle into the fullback and halfback lines, you are essentially building an impenetrable fortress. They take on the heaviest, most grueling defensive assignments.
The real hard yaka.
Exactly. They wrestle with the opposition's monster forwards, taking the physical beating. And by absorbing that immense pressure, they completely free up the captain, James Sicily.
So it's a domino effect.
It is.
Sicily doesn't have to play as a traditional lockdown defender anymore, burning all his energy wrestling in the goal square. He gets to roam that halfback line as the ultimate interceptor general.
That's the masterstroke. The analysis points out that this specific tactical shift makes Sicily arguably the most dangerous player in the AFL right now.
Because he's reading the play.
Yes. When he is freed from a direct matchup, he can read the flight of the ball better than almost anyone, cut off the opposition's attack, and instantly launch that fast transition Coach Mitchell loves. His elite kicking penetrates the first line of the opposition's defense in a split second.
And it's not just those three talls doing the work. The text highlights how they've rounded out this defensive density with the perfect supporting cast.
You need ground-level support.
Right. You have the absolute lockdown specialty of Blake Hardwick, who can completely blanket the opposition's most dangerous small forwards and eliminate them from the game. Then you inject the sheer pace, agility, and skill of Jarman Impey, combined with the athletic, gut-running power of Josh Weddle.
It is a beautifully balanced unit. You have the tall timber neutralizing the aerial threats, the intercepting general reading the play, the lockdown specialist neutralizing the ground-level danger, and the runners providing the offensive overlap.
It covers every base.
It really does. And if we take a step back and look at this conceptually, there's a brilliant lesson here for you, the listener.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether you're managing a corporate division, running a startup, or organizing a major project. Perfectly plugging your weakest structural gaps is often the exact thing that unlocks the true, uninhibited potential of your top performers.
That's a great way to frame it.
By bringing in Barrass and Battle to do the heavy lifting, Hawthorn has allowed their best asset, Sicily, to operate with total freedom and maximum impact.
That is such a fantastic takeaway. You don't just recruit to fill a hole, you recruit to amplify the talent you already have in the building. Now, moving up the ground from that defensive wall, we arrive at what the analysis dubs the engine room, the midfield.
The core of the team.
The document makes it abundantly clear that Lloyd Meek has now fully cemented his spot as the undisputed #1 ruckman for the Hawks.
And we know how crucial that is. Meek's tap work at the center bounce is what gives their ground-level midfielders first use of the ball, dictating the clearance. But it's his sheer physical dominance and follow-up work at the stoppage that truly sets the tone.
He's like a fourth midfielder in there.
He acts as an extra midfielder once the ball hits the turf, yeah. And the contrasting dynamic of the midfielders at his feet is incredible.
It's the ultimate combination of inside grunt versus outside silk. Leading the charge in the clinches, you have the bruising, physical presence of Jai Newcomb.
The battering ram.
He is doing all the heavy lifting in the contested spaces. But right next to him, perfectly complementing that aggression, is the silky smooth elegance and lateral movement of Will Day.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, having Meek, Newcomb, and Day operating at such a high level allows Hawthorn to execute a brilliant inside-outside midfield rotation.
Because the game is just too demanding now.
Exactly. Elite midfields in the modern AFL aren't just about 3 guys attending every stoppage. The physical toll of a 120-minute game is just too extreme. You need deep, punishing rotations to maintain clearance dominance.
Right.
The notes emphasize that having Connor Nash and Josh Ward providing heavy rotation depth means they never have to drop their intensity.
Because Nash brings that huge, intimidating physical frame to bash and crash, while Ward brings relentless two-way running power that just exhausts opposition midfields by the fourth quarter.
Spot on. And because that inside core is so incredibly dominant and deep, it acts like a black hole, drawing all the opposition's attention and bodies into the contest.
Which opens everything up.
That creates acres of space on the outside. It allows the wings to absolutely flourish. The source specifically highlights the elite, penetrating kicking of Carl Amon and the surging, line-breaking run of Massimo D'Ambrosio.
These guys are the crucial links in the chain. They take the hard-won ball from the inside congestion and feed it forward. That transition from the inside out to the wings is exactly what Sam Mitchell's fast transition system relies upon.
It's the trigger.
Amon and D'Ambrosio are tasked with taking the ball from a static stoppage and turning it into an immediate, devastating offensive strike. Which brings us to the receiving end of those strikes. Here's where it gets really interesting. The text describes the Hawks' forward line as a stark, terrifying contrast. They've actually dubbed it the Wizards and Giants.
It is an incredibly apt name and honestly a nightmare for opposition coaches to match up against. Let's look at the Giants first, the aerial threat. Hawthorn has constructed a formidable 3-headed monster in the air.
They really have.
You have the towering physical presence of key forwards Mitch Lewis and Mebir Chol, perfectly balanced by the incredible footy IQ and leading patterns of the veteran Jack Gunston.
But I have to ask, if you stack the forward arc with 3 legitimate marking targets of that size, don't you risk becoming too predictable?
So,
Or worse, if the ball hits the deck, aren't you suddenly fielding a forward line that lacks the defensive pressure to keep the ball locked in?
you would think so, and that's the traditional vulnerability of playing a tall forward line.
Yeah.
You usually sacrifice that ground-level speed. But that deliberate chaos, bringing the ball to the turf, is exactly what the Wizards are waiting for. The sheer height and structural presence of Lewis, Chol, and Gunston force the opposing defenders to play desperately. They can't always mark it. Often, they're just trying to punch the ball to the ground to survive the aerial contest.
And the ground level is where the magic happens. The source eagerly highlights the wizardry of the small forward duo, Jack Ginnivan and Nick Watson. According to this breakdown, this pair is set to be the absolute most entertaining, dynamic, ground-level threat in the entire league.
They are electric.
And let's be honest, Ginnivan already has an incredible knack for getting under the skin of every opposing fan base in the country, which just adds to the psychological pressure.
It's a perfect symbiotic relationship. The Giants create the contest, drawing the key defenders and the interceptors into a panic scramble, and the Wizards feast on the outcome.
It's beautifully designed.
Ginnivan and Watson possess this innate electric ability to read the drop of the ball off the pack, evade tackles in impossibly tight spaces, and snap ridiculous goals from the boundary line.
I can just picture it now. Sicily intercepts across halfback, hits Eamon on the wing who hasn't broken stride. Eamon launches it deep to a massive pack where Lewis brings it to the deck, and Watson is instantly there to rove it and snap it through the big sticks.
That is the exact offensive sequence this blueprint is designed to produce. But the authors also stress a critical connecting piece.
Oh, the half-forwards.
Yes, you can't just have tall guys deep in the goal square and small guys at their feet. You have to bridge the vast gap between the midfield and that deep forward line.
Right, the transition piece. That vital high half-forward connection is provided by Dylan Moore and Connor McDonald. The document paints them as the ultimate connectors.
They're the hardest workers on the ground.
They push high up the ground, almost working as extra midfielders, to present as bailout targets for those surging wingers. Once they secure the ball, they turn, lower their eyes, and deliver elite foot skills deep inside 50 to the Wizards and Giants.
They are the glue of the entire offensive structure. Without Moore and McDonald working tirelessly up and down that high half-forward area, running themselves to the point of exhaustion, the system completely breaks down.
Because the ball would just get trapped on the wings.
Exactly. Their work rate ensures that the ball seamlessly transitions from a defensive intercept straight through the engine room and directly onto the scoreboard without getting bogged down on the boundary line.
It is a beautifully crafted 18-man structure on the field. It's almost poetic when you break it down mechanically. But in modern footy, the 18 on the grass is only part of the story. You don't win a premiership with just your starting lineup. The analysis dedicates a significant amount of focus to the strategic interchange, the bench.
And rightfully so. We touched on the physical toll earlier, but it cannot be overstated. The modern game is a brutal war of attrition.
It's massive.
You are talking about athletes running upwards of 15 kilometers a game with constant physical collisions. The document highlights the incredible luxury of Hawthorn's loaded bench for 2026. This isn't just a place to park tired players while they catch their breath. It is deployed as an active tactical weapon.
The depth they've built is frightening. They have assembled a bench featuring the next generation of midfield stars alongside incredibly versatile defensive depth. We are looking at dynamic players like Jack Scrimshaw, Cam McKenzie, and Cal Sherdeer waiting in the wings.
Having guys of that caliber on the interchange means Coach Sam Mitchell can handle literally any mid-game tactical shift an opposition coach throws at him.
He's got an answer for everything.
If the game gets bogged down in the wet and they need more grunt and run through the middle, rotate McKenzie in. If the opposition suddenly tries to isolate a mismatch in the forward line, bring Scrimshaw on to shore up the defense. It's a chess match, and Mitchell has a board full of queens.
And I imagine it's about sustaining the pressure, right? The document talks heavily about the run home and what's required for finals footy. You can be the most skilled team in the league, but if your bottom four players drop off in the fourth quarter of a preliminary final, you're going home empty-handed.
Exactly. This specific bench configuration allows them to maintain the phenomenally high-intensity pacing required for that run home.
No passengers.
To make a deep 2026 finals run and ultimately hold up the cup, you cannot have weak links playing out tired minutes when the game is on the line. You need constant high-energy rotations that keep the pressure gauge dialed up to 100 until the final siren sounds.
So, what does this all mean? When you pull back and look at the entirety of this 2026 Premiership blueprint, you see the ultimate culmination of a meticulously planned, long-term strategy. The combination of an elite, fortified defense that frees its captain, a deep and bruising midfield rotation that runs opponents into the ground, and a varied, terrifying forward line that attacks in the air and on the ground. It means there are no easy minutes against this team.
That is the ultimate takeaway from this source. This is a calm, incredibly calculated assessment from the Hawthorn brass. As the analysis definitively states, they have shed the skin of the scrappy underdog.
They aren't sneaking up on anyone anymore.
They are no longer relying on a giant killer mentality or the element of surprise. They have successfully drafted, recruited, and structured their way into genuine, undeniable Premiership contention. Every single move, from securing big names like Barrass and Battle in the trade period to fast-tracking the development of their young midfield core, has been completely purposeful.
It's incredible to see it all laid out like this. It's one thing to watch a team get better organically on the television, but it's another entirely to read the actual structural mechanics of how a championship roster is purposefully built, position by position, strategy by strategy.
It really is a masterclass in list management.
No.
And looking over this entire structural overhaul, this raises an important question.
Oh, absolutely. Let's hear it.
If a team can successfully engineer a flawless system that meticulously masks all their previous weaknesses, while simultaneously unleashing their captain to play with total, uninhibited freedom, how does the rest of the competition even begin to adapt their own strategies? When you look at a roster with zero obvious weak links, where exactly do you attack?
That is the million-dollar question for the other 17 coaches in the league, isn't it? Figuring out how to crack the Great Wall or outrun that engine room is going to keep plenty of coaching panels up late at night. Thank you so much for joining us as we took this deep dive into the Hawthorn Hawks 2026 Premiership Blueprint. We hope you enjoyed exploring the tactical shifts in roster construction as much as we did. Definitely keep an eye on how these strategies, from the intercepting general to the Wizards and Giants, play out on the grass this season. We will catch you next time.